they're like, oh, this is a better room. It has a window. It was smaller and uglier and stupider. It was just, hospital rooms are just awful. It's just so stupid. I'm like, you try to upsell this like it was going to be great. This is worse than the delivery room. Whatever. Anyway.
This is smaller and uglier and stupider. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, turkeys. I want you guys to know that every time we hit record, it does a 5-second countdown, and I hear the start to Mario Kart in my head. Is that just me?
No, me too, and I can feel my thumbs aching because of how hard I would press on the buttons, and it would make no difference.
I literally every time it's like beep, beep, beep.
I love it. And second guessing which square you're supposed to look at, I always got confused.
Oh my god, Rainbow Road. Okay. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. As promised, Kayla is still here. You don't have to just listen to me. We have Birth Story Part 2 locked and loaded. But first, I just want to ask the audience. Is everyone in the world drinking an Aperol Spritz this summer?
Oh, did you get that because you went to Europe?
Okay, yes. But listen, Linda. I was on the cruise ship and it was like one of the featured drinks. I swear to God, I've heard of it before. I swear I've heard of it, which I know I'm just probably trying to make it sound like I'm worldly, but I'm not. I swear to God, I'd heard of it. And I just was like, ooh, Prosecco. I don't want to do that. It'll give me a headache. But then we were on the cruise and we had the drink package and it was on the menu. And I was like, ooh, this sounds like a good little light drink to start the afternoon when Jason's drinking a Corona. And then it's like I drank 2 or 3 every day on the cruise ship to start off the evening. But then I got back and I think it's everywhere.
I think like some restaurants, I think it's really trendy in the summer, but I know multiple people that I've known have gone to Europe. And I wasn't dogging you on being worldly. I've been to Europe now, darling. No, but a lot of people that go over there have come back and just raved about them. And then where were we? We were at some restaurant and one of my friends ordered something, but I was pregnant at the time, so I didn't have it. So I've heard amazing things. It sounds so refreshing and I would love to partake in one. I just never bought the ingredients to make one, to be honest, but it sounds amazing. I've heard great things.
Well, here's what it's weird because it was like a week or two after I got home, a comedian was talking about it on their podcast. And then one of your friends that I also follow had it like a post, like she was out getting drinks with girlfriends and they were all drinking them. And she was like, oh, it's the drink of summer 2024. And I didn't know if that was just her. But then we went to Total Wine. Yeah. We went to Total Wine and like their featured end cap was like all the ingredients to make one.
See, I've never seen that in all the years of my life. So whoever is up here and making decisions on like what's trendy, I guess decided. I didn't know that. I didn't realize.
That's what I mean. It's like in the zeitgeist. And then it makes me think like, was I just subliminally messaged to start drinking this summer by the aliens? Or did it just so happen that I went on a cruise when this got popular?
That's a very valid question.
I want to point this out to you. It might be that thing where like you talk about white cars and then you only see white cars, but I just want to see if it's like kicking up in your area and your area is more trendy. Like I know you guys aren't going out on the town every night because you have a new baby, but if you go out, if you notice them on the menus.
I'll have to pay attention. That's so interesting.
And I think the price of Campari and Aperol has gone up and I'm not pleased.
Literally 2 days ago, someone on Instagram, who I don't know personally, but I follow, was making one at home. So maybe, I don't know.
I just think that it's like the spritzes are in the air.
The drink gods have spoken.
That's what it is, bro. Whoever runs America wanted us to have these.
I really want one now.
I mean, they're really good. It's not that hard. Here's my tip. Here's my pro tip. I can't call myself a pro, but my tip is to buy the little bottles of Prosecco
Yes.
and then like the little bottles of soda water and then the Campari or the Aperol or whichever version of that you want is fine to just have forever. But that has been helpful because I'm like, if I open one bottle of Prosecco, I'm going to make a bottle's worth of
Yeah,
spritzes
you
and
don't
get
want it to
really
go
drunk.
bad.
No, because I'll be like, it'll go bad. That'll be my stupid excuse. So one mini bottle makes 2 drinks because I use half in one
Oh,
and then half in the other.
that's perfect.
Probably because it's a screw-on cap. Probably I could make one tonight and one tomorrow, but I'm probably gonna tell myself it's gonna go bad and just have to. But
Two's
portion
reasonable.
control.
Yeah. It's light. It's airy.
It's a spritz. I don't
It's
know. I
Hey,
just
I'm
feel like,
close to being able to flick my hair.
dude, your hair has gotten so long.
I know, you can't really tell, but it's down to almost my chin,
You kind of
which
have a
if
bob.
I know, but I'm not going to have a mom bob for anyone listening. I'm going to have a cool bob. I'm going to make sure it doesn't look like Karen.
Well, you're never gonna spike the back.
That's true.
For Halloween, if it's still not quite long enough, you could spike the back and you could be Karen for Halloween. And Kenny could be
What's
the manager.
that? Oh my God. What's the lady that had like 9 kids? What was her name?
What is her name? Oh my god. She
That
had,
show?
yeah, she had like 8 kids at once or 6. Oh my god. I can see her. It
Well,
wasn't
she had
Mom.
the spiky hair in the back too
Yeah.
for a while.
Oh my god. I don't know what Caden would be for Halloween if you were Karen and Kenny was the manager though.
Kate plus 8, something like
John
that.
and K plus 8.
Thank you.
Oh, thank God. Also, shameless plug. There's a new season of Sister Wives starting in August, and I can't wait. What
I
is
love that
Janelle
for
gonna
you.
do? I'm so embarrassed that I love this so much. Okay, everyone, that's enough yip yap. But I just have been really thinking about the Campari Spritz and subliminal messaging and like groupthink and mass hypnosis, and it's really being reinforced.
I think it's real, man.
Okay, but you have birth story part 2. So last week, for everyone listening, Kayla shared Caden's surprise arrival. And well, okay, he wasn't a surprise, but his arrival early was a surprise. And he just came out.
He's crying. It's fine.
Oh,
Kenny's with him.
okay.
Oh,
If we need to pause at any point, let me know.
no, you're good.
But yes, everyone, if you haven't listened to last week, I mean, you don't have to, but you should first because it's part 1 and then part 2. But if you're one of those people that likes to read the end of a book first and then go back, I mean, start here and then you can listen to part 1 as a prequel. But
That
anyway,
works.
yeah, that's my intro, and here we go.
So yeah, last week's was fun. It was really therapeutic to tell my whole birth story. So for anyone who did listen to the whole thing, appreciate you. Kaylee, thank you for listening. I feel like there's so much more to birthing a child and bringing a human into this world than the actual labor and birth. Yeah.
I'm really sorry, but I just feel the need to explain for anyone watching that what just happened while you started talking is that my orange in my drink like moved and it slushed all the drink to my face and I just dribbled all down my front of my
How did I
body.
even miss that?
Well, you were like trying to get in the zone of talking, and I'm glad that I didn't throw you off. But now I have. But I just felt like I would be remiss if I didn't point that out. That normally I know how to drink, and this is not a dribble glass. I just had a garnish problem. Okay, so sorry.
I think you need a different glass for those, like those fancy, like wider glasses. That way the orange sits on the top. I don't know. I'm just making things up.
No,
Okay.
I don't ever, anything I drink is never out of the correct glass. Ever. I have stemless wine glasses and then I have bourbon glasses. I have sniffers for bourbon. I have correct things for liquor, but I have no correct things for wine. And also for the YouTube trolls who've been calling me an alcoholic, I am giving them so much fuel for their fire right now. As you were.
Okay, I will. Oh, basically, I was saying there's so much more to the afterbirth, pun intended. It's kind of crazy. I was telling you last week how for being in the hospital, even though I wanted to birth at home, it was a pretty darn good experience. Like with all of my nerves and worries about how that would go. I can't say the same for recovery. What do you call it? It's labor and delivery, and then you go into, I don't know. It's basically recovery, and they're they're checking on you as the mom and the baby and doing a million things. And sorry, I have a little tickle.
Ooh, I have a question while you're drinking. Is that a different room? Like, do you labor in the same room and then you just stay there, or do you get moved to a different area?
Yeah, you get moved to a whole different area, and you have a whole new set of nurses and staff.
Okay, so labor and delivery is it's like its own bubble, and then
Yeah,
you get pooped into post.
exactly. Yep,
Did you
yep.
have a Okay, so then there's a physician that attends to you and then a pediatric physician that attends to Kaden?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. No, exactly. So going back before we got moved into the post care team and room, immediately after birth, I think I said like I birthed the placenta. They laid him on my chest right away. Um, this is where it got really blurry for me. So I actually had to ask my husband Kenny all the different things that happened because as soon as they had to take him over to the warmer because he was preemie and his breathing was a little iffy or like a little concerning. I was completely unaware of everything that was happening, which was probably a good thing because what I just realized from Kenny today was interesting. I was so exhausted and out of it from being in labor for 37 hours. All I remember was like being half asleep, half conscious, and kind of hearing people and seeing people in the room, but in no way was I able to understand what was happening. And I remember, did I tell you about my midwife feeding me food for the first time? Okay, yeah. So she left the hospital, got food, brought it back while all this was happening. She fed me like such a motherly thing to do, like literally just put it in my mouth with her own hands. And it was the cutest thing. And it tasted like absolute heaven. It was eggs with like sausage in there and an English muffin with jelly. And I don't know why, but it was like the most heavenly thing on earth. And she
Your
fed me, and
body
I was
was
like,
probably
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
my God, we need anything.
Anything. Oh my God. I was like, this is the best meal ever. Well, come to find out, I was talking to Kenny, and he's like, that was the worst food I've ever had in my life. He was like, that was some boo boo shit. Like, but it was so nourishing to me because I hadn't ate for a while.
Was it from the hospital?
No, it wasn't, which I have a
Okay.
whole, yeah.
Because I would
The
have
hospital
peed
food,
my pants if you loved hospital food. I would have
no.
shit myself if that was
I
the
don't,
story.
I don't remember where she got it, but it was someplace outside the hospital. It was one of the local restaurants. It's just so funny. Kenny was like, that was really not that good. And I thought it tasted like heaven. So my circumstances definitely dictated my experience with that. But so she did that. Meanwhile, once they took Caden off my chest, they had to bring him to the warmer. This is what I kind of found out today. I knew some of this, but we really went into detail when I was talking to him. So his chest was like kind of going up and down in a way where like they didn't think the breath was kind of going into his lungs enough. So apparently, I'm just looking at my notes. So apparently they put oxygen mask on him and like were manually giving him oxygen. Did not know
Oh,
that.
like with a bag?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh, to like expand his lungs?
Yeah, because
This is
they
so
thought it was
interesting.
maybe not like getting full enough. And
Yeah.
then I didn't know that they stuck a tube down his throat. Like I was like, do you mean those little like the squeezy things where you're just kind of sucking some stuff up, and he's like, no, it was like a tube to try to get stuff out. I was like, oh my God.
Because they thought he still had fluid in his lungs.
Uh-huh.
So it was like baby version of suctioning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm glad I was not kind of aware of this, because I would have kind of been freaking out probably. Um, so he was over there. They were like giving him, it wasn't like an emergency, but it was like, this is concerning. Let's make sure he's good. Let's get his lungs to be in good shape. So yeah, they didn't think they were inflating all the way. But after a couple minutes, I guess it worked. So he was fine. So that was good. But I didn't realize they stuck a tube down his throat and put an oxygen mask on him.
Well, I guess that makes sense too. Because when they come out of the birth canal, it's supposed to like squeeze everything out of their lungs that was in their lungs. But he came out flipped up, and he was smaller because he was a preemie, so maybe he didn't get squished as much.
Well, and they pulled him out. But
Yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking they pulled him out because he had the umbilical cord around his neck. But again, quite frequently that happens, and it is an emergency sometimes, but not all the time. And his was loose. It was a very easy, like, shbloop. So it could have been a lot of things, but it was very interesting to hear that. So he stayed in the warmer for a little bit. I specifically asked, like, do not cut the umbilical cord until all the blood is out from the placenta. Anything that needs to be transferred from the placenta to the baby, until that cord is white, please don't cut it. I wanted to make sure all the nutrients in the blood got into him. I believe it's a third of the baby's blood and nutrients is still in the placenta when they're born, and it needs to like continue to be transferred over to them. Yeah. Interesting.
One, I'm fascinated by this. Two, I'm disturbed that that's a request.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Okay.
So Kenny was able to cut the cord when it was time. I vaguely remember looking up and seeing him do it. I was unfortunately like not very involved because again, they were kind of in the other corner of the room and I was still half asleep, half just zombie. So once they cut the cord, I said, can I see the placenta? My dream for the home birth was, I know that sounds a little weird to some people, and I'm so sorry, but not really. I wanted to birth in the pool, give birth to him, give birth to placenta, put it in some kind of floatable bowl, like they normally use an aluminum or tin bowl. You know what I'm talking about? And I wanted to just be there with the placenta, the organ that sustained him and gave him life inside my body, that I grew this organ, and him. I wanted it all to be very close, and I wanted to touch the damn thing. I kind of wanted to deliver the placenta myself in the water and touch it and feel it and put it in the bowl myself. That was the goal for the home birth. So for whatever weird reason, I wanted to touch it. I was like, this has been a part of my body. It's an organ that sustained him and I grew. I just want to feel it. It looks kind of crazy. It's like the size of my head. I wanted to feel it. And that was the one thing they just kind of showed it to me. And like, there's literally a picture of me going like this, like reaching out to touch it, but I wasn't able to touch it.
I mean,
So that
I
was
wanted
sad.
to see my gallbladder that they removed. So
It's like, why can't you show me my own body parts?
Like you took an organ out of me. I should at least get to look at it. I didn't get to. I didn't say this ahead of time. I just thought about it after the fact. But I'm trying to, having no experience whatsoever with what you're talking about. I'm trying to find something in common. So I can get there.
Yep. Okay. So it's probably still weird to people, but that's fine. The weird part is I ate it, bitches. So there you go.
I will come after them.
No, I didn't eat it like steak. I had it encapsulated and ate my placenta in pill form. So nothing weird, just capsules of pills. But that was later. So anyway, there was that. He was on my chest for about probably 5 to 10 minutes, which was great. I wanted an hour, but because he had the lung issues, they had to take him. He was probably over at the warmer for like 20 minutes. Wasn't anything crazy. Then he was put back on my chest, which was great. That's when I was trying to nurse him for the first time. The lactation consultant came in and that wasn't happening. I was producing colostrum, which is the first, like your beginning milk. It's a little different than milk, but Yeah, ain't no way it wasn't happening. But I was just like enjoying the moment. It was super fun. So at that point, it was probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half. The doula and the midwife left because the doula had been there forever. I was like, you need to go home and sleep. So they left, and then we got packed up to go to the recovery area. But before we went over there, they needed me to pee, and I had to pee. So
Why?
they said, I think to make sure you're okay, and if you're, I don't know. I feel like that's always a thing. Like you have to pee before to make sure you're good. I don't know. That's weird. Now that I think about it, I don't know what the reason is.
I mean, I don't know. Can your urine, I
My
don't know the word
kidneys fail.
line.
Oh,
Can the line that runs from your kidney out your urethra rupture when you're giving birth?
I don't know. I didn't have a catheter in, so maybe it's for people with catheters, and I don't know.
Oh, I'm gonna ask Jason if you have to pee when they
Yeah, you
take a
should.
catheter out. He doesn't
That
know
makes
anything
sense.
about mother baby. Not he had a short rotation in nursing school, and then he made a cake that looked like a baby coming out of a vagina
Oh my God.
that I should post on social media if I can get him to send it to me and be okay with it. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. It looks like a Pinterest photo. Anyway, not related.
Please. Oh
Yeah,
my God, I want to
super.
see it.
He's very creative and artsy when he wants to be and gets in the mood for it. And then when he sets his mind on something, he does it. But it's like really random when it occurs. But anyway,
That's so funny.
that is interesting. I'm I know, caveat, I know that in healthcare, when it's your job, things are routine. I'm
Mm-hmm.
annoyed that they didn't explain to you why.
Mm-hmm.
I guess to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they did and you forgot. But that always bothers me. It's such a big
Yeah.
deal to explain things to people because it's your routine, but it's not theirs. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, that was the whole nervousness that I had with going to the hospital is them just wanting to go buy a book when it may not be applicable to me. But the other poor decision, whoever it was, forgot to give me or lacked the knowledge to give me a Perry bottle. They should know this. A Perry bottle is basically a bottle that you shoot water up um onto your pee hole slash vagina. Sorry, but those are the terms. It's not the terms. Urethra or labia, whatever. You shoot it up there to dilute your pee to help with the stinging because I had a tear.
Because probably also like you're probably dehydrated, so it's like pretty salty.
Maybe, yeah. So I go pee, and that was. Remember last week I said there's a difference between super uncomfortable pressure and pain when I tore? This was on the pain scale again because it was a sharp, stinging feeling. And I just remember sitting there and starting to pee and banging on the wall, like, oh my God, no one warned me at the stinging feeling of, of this pee hitting this tear. Oh my God. So that was funny. They all looked, they turned around and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it just hurts, bitch." I didn't say bitch. I just said, "Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's just startling." So anyway, that was funny. Now looking back, it's funny. So whatever. They give me basically a 10x diaper and put a whole bunch of crap in there, and I can get into that in the next room. But I'm now waddling with this big diaper on and everything inside, which is good. It helps. It's like they put an ice pad thing in there, real nice. Um, so yeah,
To be clear, you've given birth like maybe 2 hours ago, and now you're being told to go walk somewhere else?
no, they wheelchaired me.
Okay, because I was like, that is some fucked up shit. I literally was just imagining you with a diaper and like an open gown, like and holding things in your hand, like hobbling down the hallway, which Kenny would never allow, but that was the
Yeah.
immediate visual image I had.
No, I waddled from the bathroom back to the bed, essentially. But yeah, no, they took all the stuff. I didn't take anything except my water bottle and myself. And oh, and Caden. I had him in my arms. And they wheelchaired me down to the other room, which they're like, oh, this is a better room. It has a window. It was smaller and uglier and stupider. It was just hospital rooms are just awful. It's just so stupid. I'm like, you try to upsell this like it was gonna be great. This is worse than the delivery room. Whatever. Anyway.
This is smaller and uglier and stupider.
Well, they were like, oh, you have a better area to sleep, husband or dad. And he's like, great, because the couch was horrible. Well, we get in there and it's a worse, it's just bigger, but it's just as hard and stupid. There's no other word for it.
I mean, I know they can't be soft because they have to be able to sanitize them, but
Oh, yeah.
I like that they try to really like amp it up.
So dumb. So this is where I started to get annoyed. And at this point, I was planning on being home and very excited just to be relaxed and peaceful and in our house and have time with the baby and soak it all in. There was someone in our room coming in and out at least every 30 to 45 minutes. And I kind of knew that was going to happen, but I really didn't know how inconvenient and annoying it would be. Because you were right. There's a nurse practitioner or whatever for me to check my vitals, make sure I'm doing good. There's another one for the baby. And then there's a bunch of other random crap going on. It's like the pediatrician doctor that's trying to push tests on us. And then it's the hearing lady who needs to test his hearing. And then it's just so many. The lactation consultant came back in twice, which was super nice.
It's like a hurry, hurry, hurry for them because they have been dictated by insurance that they have to see like 1 million people that day.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks for them too. Like, I'm not saying what they were doing was their fault, but the system, it's just, not great for them because they have too much on their plate, and it was not fun for me.
I honestly, your whole like journey of exploring this was so eye-opening to me because I didn't even know that anybody did home births that weren't trying to hide from the government, or I didn't know I was pregnant on TLC or like from the 20s. I just didn't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. I had no idea. And then it was so interesting because the more that you talked about it, the more that I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, barring any known issues that would require interventional medicine, why would you not want to be in your home and in your house? And why would you want there to be people bothering you? Like, if you have a heart attack and you go to the ICU, we're just trying to keep you alive. Like, be quiet, do what you're told to do. Like, I don't know, I hear these things from my husband where it's like the priority is that you're alive and you're not dead now. Yeah. But that's from like a major catastrophic problem. And it struck me when you said like giving birth and having a baby isn't a problem or an illness, but we treat it the same as all the problems and illnesses. I was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. But even in your first story, when you talked about like, I wanted to wear my clothes and not my hospital gown, it totally makes sense to me. And I wouldn't even have known that that was a thing that you could tell people because we just get in the routine of what everybody does. And I would feel so much more comfortable in my own clothing than being in a hospital gown because that just makes me anxious.
Yes, it makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel like I'm a patient that's sick, not a woman giving birth, which is a natural occurrence. Now, granted, I know there's emergencies and there's situations where hospital and giving birth in hospital and the tools necessary that they have are amazing and they're life-saving. But my whole point is, if you feel comfortable and you have a healthy pregnancy and there's no concerns, giving birth at home is something for me that I wanted to be very like spiritual and transformational, not me feeling like a patient being told what to do, thinking like you are in a medical facility having a medical procedure done because what you are doing is scary and your life is in danger. It's just very like up here. And if that's not the case, then why have that energy around you? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it makes sense to the midwife model is on your schedule. Like, let's feel what mom's and baby's schedule is and then like flow with what that energy is. But when you're in a healthcare system, you're forced into their schedule, and that might
Yep.
not be the best thing for you, but they don't have a choice. So you don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, really what it comes down to is I wanted a physiological birth. How nature and God started the process, how long the labor lasted, which position he was in, what the birth looked like, everything physiologically, my body knows what to do naturally. Now, granted, my water broke early and things happen. You can't control stuff. There's so many people that want certain things and want certain birth stories and they can't have them. And that's just how life is, unfortunately. So, like, again, time and place for hospitals. But it just sucks that there's so many procedures in place and timelines and systems and governing people up there that just have created it and made it not conducive for mom and baby sometimes.
Because the people that made the people that made those decisions were not people involved in direct patient care.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your
Mm-hmm.
physicians and your nurses were making the choices, I'm maybe I'm naive, but I feel like I'm certain that they would make a decision more in line with what midwives and doulas are doing outside of insurance, but they're being dictated by business people with a 4-year degree in business,
Mm-hmm.
in management of hospitals, and people with similar degrees in insurance companies whose goal is to make a profit.
And I'm totally aware that there's a liability, and doctors are nervous that if they don't suggest a C-section and if you die or if something happens, then you're going to sue them and they're going to become liable and potentially lose their job or get sued. Like, that's a whole other aspect that's unfortunately a part of this too. So I'm not I'm not unrealistic to realize there's multiple perspectives to this, but
That's true. I didn't
basically,
think about that. Like, if Americans would stop suing people, maybe our healthcare wouldn't be so nervy all the time.
but my coffee water was too hot and it burned me. So I'm going to sue you,
How
stupid
how
people.
dare you have done your best and been
Oh my
trained at
god.
like a top tier medical facility and not been able to control every outcome
Yeah.
because I'm
So,
unhealthy and don't take care of myself.
yeah, I know. Tangents, man. Anyway, so derailed for a little bit. But yeah, so that's the constant. It just was like we had no peace and no relaxation. The moment I was finally able to fall asleep, and Kenny too, he was annoyed just as much. It's like, knock, knock, knock. Here we are. Stick your finger so I can, test your whatever blood pressure. But then the worst part, this is the part that I wanted to talk about. My poor baby got so many heel pricks. And oh God. So they pricked his heel in the beginning for something, and then they do a test to test his blood sugar, I believe. Because he's preemie for sure, they wanted to make sure it was at a good level. I did not have gestational diabetes, but it was still, it still could be a problem, which it was inherently slightly a problem because the first test came back slightly lower than normal. And so it was a very big deal to make sure his numbers were within range before we left the hospital. And you have to have so many tests I think it was every 4 to 6 hours, and you had to have a certain amount of them in range before they would discharge him. So every 4 to 6 hours, they would come in and prick his little tiny baby feet, and I would watch his little baby heel bleed and them trying to push it into the tube. Oh my God. And he was crying. It was just so sad. And me and Kenny are looking at each other like, oh my God, this is so traumatic. Like, our new, precious, pure little peaceful baby is getting pricked I know they have to do it, but it felt so excessive. And the problem that I had was they wanted to run this blood compatibility test that I'm 99% sure we had done or we were going to do with our midwives. There was a reason why we declined it. We got so much pushback to decline this test, which doesn't do anything. Like, it was not like critical information that we needed for that moment. It wasn't like about his health or his situation at that time. It was just a test they like to run in store or whatever. So the pediatrician calls the freaking room and was like, do you realize how important this is? and basically tried to like strong arm me into agreeing with it. And I said, okay, I don't mind. I think it's unnecessary. And the fact that you're going to have to heel prick him a separate time for this test when you should have gotten it from the cord blood they were, or something, the placenta or something they were supposed to do. Again, I'm not a doctor, so if any doctors out there and you know what I'm talking about, I'm kind of botching this part. But regardless, I was like, if you can take the same test tube as the sugar one and you want to pull some blood out of there and test that separately. Now, do I know how labs work? No, probably not. Probably can't do it. But I was like, if you can figure it out, like, go for it. But otherwise, no. Like, respect our decision. We said no. So it was like 2:00 in the morning. This poor nurse came in and she was like, okay, I think I can do this. And there's one more test left. I have to prick his heel. But for some reason, this tube that they gave me always separates. It like congeals. It gets clotted up really fast. And me and Kenny looked at each other. I'm like, well, do you want to go get the other tube that doesn't do that? Because if this congeals, we're not letting you do it again. I was just so over it at this point. It was like 2:00 in the morning. Poor girl. We were trying to be as nice as possible. But she's like, I think I can figure this out. And me and Kenny are just watching her. And lo and behold, it starts to clot. And you can just see her face is like starting to sweat. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to tell you. You can't, we don't want to do it again. So you're going to have to figure it out. So she leaves. She comes back like three hours later. She's like, good news. We figured it out. We either unclotted it or took, blood from the other, whatever it was, but they figured it out. It's like, okay, so you were able to figure it out. Good for you. That's exactly why I didn't want you to prick his heel again. It was my first like mama bear moment where I was like, stop doing this. You're stressing me out.
I think that it's a big deal that you educated yourself as much as you did ahead of time to have the confidence to go in and tell people no, because the whole like white coat syndrome, where you just like do whatever a professional says in a uniform is really real. And for someone that gets squeamish like ordering pizza on the phone, I'm really proud of you. And I love that in the moments when it counts, you have no problem like pushing back on authority figures. Maybe that's part of your like spicy Kayla Chessman persona, but I don't know.
No,
There's
it's
not
true.
a lot of people that would do that.
I know. And I was really trying to be firm but respectful. I will say that. Kenny has taught me a lot, and I have come to terms that I can sometimes be a little bitch. And I was really trying to be respectful because they are just doing their job. But at a certain point, I'm going to say no, and you need to also then respect my decision for making this decision. So anyway, so that was the one point where we're just like, we are over this, bro. And so we still had to get his hearing test done because he's preemie. Did you know you have to do a car seat test before we leave? Yeah. Well, first, let me back up. We had not bought a car seat yet.
There's also something about you that I love, that you were so prepared with information. I know, but so not. And food at home. There were a lot of things that you were like wildly over prepared. No, over prepared's not right, but like way on top of the ball, like so educated. And then there were other things where I could tell you were kind of overwhelmed with all of the prep. And you were like, I'm going to ignore this until later. But you didn't have later.
I have it's a gift and a curse, but I can, I just lost the word.
Compartmentalize?
Thank you. You knew, yes. I can
Kayla did a hand gesture, and I knew what it was. And just so you guys know, this is why we are banging at games like charades.
Oh, and catchphrase. Thank you. So I have a really great gift, which also gets me in trouble, of compartmentalizing things. I can't even say the word anymore. So if something's stressing me out, I'll just put it in the back and really won't stress me out because I'll stress about it when I think about it. But then if I just move it to the back, I'm fine and I don't have to stress about it. So that was the car seat because I was like, there's so many car seats. I got to do my research. What's the best one? What's the most, there's so much out there. So we obviously can't leave the hospital without a car seat. And now we find out we have to do a car seat test. So I am like, Kenny, you got to go and get a car seat. So instead of taking a month to research a car seat and buying the best one, Kenny went to Walmart and bought the nicest looking one that was like relatively not too expensive. And it works just fine. So I stressed out for nothing. Oh, but that was funny. So they have to set him in the car seat for 90 minutes. Yeah. To make sure he's not like sinking too far down, and I'm crunching my face and making a double chin, cutting off his circulation.
What if your commute is 10 minutes home?
And that's a great question that they never asked. But I guess they have to make sure the car seat you bought is going to be sustainable for more than just your hospital ride home. I don't know.
Why?
All these things are the things that we wouldn't have had to do at home. And again, I understand why kind of they do them, but I was just like, really? That was the only time that he was not in the room with us, was when they had to do this test.
Okay. Also, when we go home in a car seat, it's not a hoverboard. So what are they, like, setting him on a thing like a paint can shaker so it jostles him around? Like, I don't think that this is an accurate test no matter how you slice it. And I don't get why him sitting there for 90 minutes makes a difference. Can't you just set him in there and be like, okay, we've tightened it enough. Here's your baby back. And why can't he be in your room?
That was my problem, but I think they have this like, it's called, no, I'm not going to make it up because I thought I knew the word, oxygen pulsometer or whatever. I don't know. They're basically measuring the oxygen. I think it's a machine that they have in a certain room that they have to hook him up to.
Because they want to make sure that the straps on the car seat aren't constricting his breathing.
They're making sure that he's not sliding down too far or his neck starts going like this. And he's crunching in on himself, and his airway gets obstructed by being too,
I need a pediatric nurse somewhere to explain to me what an infant's pulse oximeter looks like, because
that's the word I was looking for.
The ones for adult humans just fit on your finger and are wireless.
These are great questions.
I mean, the one that fits on my finger would fit on his whole foot. Well, so, like, I understand if there's, like, a specialized device, and I'm being overly skeptical, but I'm still bothered by this because all you have to do is hit one speed bump. This is delusional. This is delusional.
I know.
Because do you know what else you didn't have to do on your way home? Was a driving test. In any Joe Blow, you know what else you didn't have to do? Prove you had a valid fucking driver's license, or a car with airbags, or brakes, or brake lights.
Dude, I know. That was the one thing that, because I wasn't aware that was even a thing, I did not do enough research. I didn't even know what questions to ask, so I didn't push back on it. But I had no idea what they were doing. I was annoyed.
It's one of those things where, like, I think there was a good intention behind it, and probably someone's baby died on the way home from the hospital because they couldn't breathe because they were crunched down in their car seat. But it's one of those things that when you play it out in your head, it's like you aren't testing for a million other factors that could be dangerous to a baby going home with new parents. And it's impossible for you to test for that. And so it's sort of ridiculous for you to think that you have any control over a baby's safety once it leaves your facility.
It's valid.
I mean, Kenny could drive like a fucking maniac. With that? He could, like, pull into your house like Tokyo Drift, and the baby's not going to stay in the car seat the way that it did, and it's 90 minutes of just being... Okay. I did not know this. This is fascinating. I want to ask my mom if they did this to my brothers when they went home, because that was 27 years ago. They were How early were they? Premature. They were in the NICU for forever.
Oh, wow.
They weighed 2 pounds, 8 ounces, maybe.
No, they didn't. That's tiny.
Oh, I mean, they were in, like, the domes that you had to stick your hands in the glove things. Like the lizard, under the lizard lights for a long time.
That's so interesting.
They were wild. I didn't I was 4.5 when I had no idea how serious it was. I'm not taking away from your life, but
No,
I'm
this is interesting.
I'm curious. I don't know how big they were when they came home, but I'm sure they were still preemies and small. I'm curious when this car seat thing started. I'm curious if this is national or Texas law.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, keep going.
Yeah, super interesting. So, okay. I didn't realize there were so many things that you had to do. They do a hearing test before they leave. You have to hook them all up and do a hearing test.
Why is that relevant to them going home?
I don't know, but they have to do it. Or they said, because I was trying to leave at a certain point. I was like, I'm not going to stay another night. I'm over this. I don't want to sleep in this bed anymore. Kenny doesn't want to sleep on this hard ass stupid couch. So whatever we need to do to get home and be both of us discharged, just get it done. And they're like, okay, well, the hearing person isn't available. You can always come back. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh yeah, nah, probably not. I don't know if that was going to be required or not, but whoa. So hearing people had to come. They did that. Birth certificate people had to come because I had to fill out something for that before I left. And then all the nurses. What was the other? There was one other thing. The lactation consultant came in twice more. And then the pediatrician came in. And then there was somebody else. Regardless, it was just a bunch of people. And all the shift changes. It was just too much. That was the part that me and Kenny. It's funny now because Kenny was nervous, to say the least, about giving birth at home. Understandably. But now, but he was on board and he was supporting and blah blah. But now that we went to the hospital, he was like, I feel so much better about you doing this at home, and I'm so excited to be at home for the next one because that was too much. I'm like, oh good, now you're like really really on board.
And if something weird happened with the next, well, I mean, I don't want to even, but you also know that giving birth in the hospital wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But you have the confidence that you know that you can do it without an epidural, even if you have to have Pitocin. Like, you know what I mean? You've done it. So you know you can give birth, and you know that you know how, so that you don't have any fears about being at home. I don't know. I feel like this made the doors open of like whatever happens the next time you guys have a kid, God willing, like you're going to have
I know
all
I
the
can.
confidence that you need for whichever situation happens.
Yep. No, it's absolutely 100%.
I love that
so
for
yeah.
Kenny too, though, to be like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
I would have had no idea if you hadn't started talking about this a while ago. Why a hearing test?
Ow.
I have so many questions. Why does that matter? Shouldn't the mom get a hearing test to make sure you can hear when your baby's crying? Doesn't that make more sense?
I guess if they have any like deaf issues, they need to find out right away so they can.
For what?
I don't know.
It doesn't stop them from eating or pooping or breathing. Isn't that something you could do at your first checkup with your pediatrician? You know
That's a
what it
good
is?
question.
Pediatricians don't have an audiologist in the clinic is probably what it is.
Yep.
I learned so much last week, and I feel like I could do a whole episode of me reacting to you last week. But this is also mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I'm dead about the car seat test.
I know. That was the one where I was like, what? They said it, and me and Kenny looked at each other. Oh, what are you talking about? I will say the one good thing about being in the hospital is all the shit that I took with me. The shit that I can legally take with me, by the way. It's all the diapers, and I think there was like 2 little tiny bottles of formula because at that point we were not nursing correctly and we needed them. All the bathroom stuff, the numbing cream or spray, the pads, what are they called? Not peri pads. They're called something. All the pads, all the disposable diapers, as in underwear. I'm sorry, I just have a bad association with them, so I call them diapers. I was like, they're like, we're going to throw this away if you don't use them. I was like, I will take all of them. So I had so much stuff, which was great for recovery at home. But it's funny because the last story that I have is when we got to the recovery room, the nurse came in, the first nurse that was taking care of me. She said, do you need to go to the bathroom? And at that point I did. Oh, I see deer out my window. I'm sorry. For anyone who doesn't know me personally, I have an obsession with the deer that I see around my house. Okay. I was like, yeah, I have to pee.
Tell the deer
So,
hi.
hello. They're everywhere. There's like
Anyone
5
that
of them.
doesn't know you personally just needed to have that. Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going.
That's how I say hi to the deer. Um, so it's like a whole thing to pee. And it was a whole thing to pee for the first 2 weeks or so. No one tells you, sorry, TMI, no one tells you how much blood is coming out and the little mini blood clots that come
Oh, your
out.
pee hole?
No, I'm sorry. Just when you wipe, like the vagina area.
Wait, what about your first poop?
That actually wasn't bad.
Okay, okay. Did you poop while you were in, did you poop while you were in labor?
Oh, I forgot to tell that part. I didn't know that I did because I didn't think I did, and Kenny didn't see it, thank God. But I was told by my midwife that there was a little bit of poop that came out.
Oh, a little bit's not bad.
No, it was just a little bit. They wiped it, so and his face was facing the opposite direction, so it didn't really matter. But I mean, they still wiped it and like got it out of the way.
Oh my god, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was
No,
not
you know,
on
you're
topic. And I was like, I
no, it's
hope
a good
Kayla doesn't
question.
mind me asking this, but I know it's like a thing when you give birth because it's like kind of hard to differentiate like what you're pushing.
No,
Okay,
I
so
definitely did not know.
pooping was non-scary, but peeing, there's blood?
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Let me go back. There's not pee coming out of your urethra. It's just
There's
you.
not blood coming out of your urethra.
What did I say?
You said pee. I knew what you meant, but I wanted to clarify.
Yes, there's pee coming out of the pee hole, but not blood. The blood was coming out from the big hole where your baby just came out of, and the placenta. Because the placenta just came out and it basically tore away from your uterine wall. So now you have this gaping wound inside your uterus.
Okay,
And that's
yeah,
why there's so much
you've talked
blood.
about this when you and I have talked, but I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea. Again, what were we learning in health class? But I had
Nothing.
no idea that there's like just this whole wound, like you basically like picked a scab off, and there's
Well,
just this like thing.
that's why I was so adamant about resting so long in the beginning because a lot of women overdo it and it causes bleeding. It's like it's a huge cavity, interior wound inside you that hasn't healed yet.
Are there nerve endings in there, or like you don't feel the pain of that?
I don't feel the pain of just an open wound. I will tell you though, when I was either pumping or trying to nurse, the contractions that I would get were terrible. Not as bad as like birthing contractions, but way more than a period cramp because when you're nursing, it's signaling your body. And it happens, I think, when you're not nursing, but I think it accentuates it because your uterus has expanded so much that when you nurse or pump, it's contracting down to get it back to its normal size. And oh my God, when I would nurse, like we've talked about this offline where I've been having some issues nursing and my poor nipples just very, very painful. The cramps were more painful than the nipple pain. I was like, oh my God, I thought this was over. Luckily, it only lasted for like the first week, maybe 5 days. But dude, the cramps after birth, mm, mm.
I'm so interested. You and I have had a lot of conversations, and I have had a. I'm not crying. I got like allergy eyes. Um, you and I have talked a lot, and I've had a lot of friends give birth, and I have not. Well, you just don't like. People are busy with kids, so it's you don't like sit down and be like, tell me everything that happened. I also think a lot of people
Whoa.
assume if you don't have kids that you're not interested, and I can't speak for everyone that's a dinkwad, but I just think I think it's interesting no matter what. I
Yeah,
can't believe that you can have a wound and like an internal wound that's internally bleeding and not feel it. This is so interesting.
I think you're dealing with so much other stuff. Maybe I wasn't aware particularly of that one little spot. But
I
anyway,
mean, it might not be nerve endings like in your actual uterus for pain. Like the contractions
mm,
might be pain
mm-hmm,
from the muscles around that are making
mm-hmm.
it contract.
Yeah, because I feel like you don't. Yeah, there must not be because the whole pregnancy when they latch on and all the other stuff. I don't know. This is me. This is my conspiracy theory. Don't listen to what I just said. This is me hypothesizing. Okay. Going back to the blood. So much blood. Wow. And blood clots. Ugh.
Like a
Um
period.
no. Wait,
Well, okay,
well,
not that it's like a period, but it's coming out of you, just like draining out of you like a period.
mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're wearing like
Similar.
diaper things because
Mm.
you're knowing that's happening.
Oh yeah, because I had towels down on the bed too because I didn't want to like bleed on the bed. So you have this like disposable big diaper underwear thing, and then I had a pad, the cold pack,
Mm-hmm.
peri pads. They're called something, and I can't remember their name, but they're pads that are they have some like witch hazel on them
Oh.
to help. And then I had numbing spray. That was nice. I only used that for like the first week.
Because
Um,
you had a minimal tear.
hmm
That's nice.
And then you pull it all up, but pulling it up, you gotta be careful that nothing falls out because there's so much shit in there. So it's like, you gotta pull your underwear up so carefully. But all those things helped a lot when like it felt really good and really healing. But okay, so when you pee every time, you're supposed to use a peri bottle again to dilute the pee so the stinging isn't as bad. But my wonderful midwives have this sitz bath. It's like a herbal stuff that you make like tea, and then you put that in a bottle, and you put like half water, half sitz tea, sitz bath in the peri bottle, and so you're not only spritzing water up there, but you're spritzing like healing herbs. Oh, it felt so good,
Is one of them
and it smelled really good.
clove?
Oh, I don't know. I could look
I
though.
don't know. I'm
I don't
just
know.
curious because I know that it has like numbing properties, but it can also
Oh,
like burn you if you have too much of it. I'm just curious
oh,
what's in it because I'm
yeah.
nosy.
Also, oh, go ahead.
Do you know how long it takes for your cervix to close?
That's a great question. I don't know.
It's okay. I mean, you're not a doctor. I just was curious in all of your research because that occurred to me as you were talking about your uterus having to go back to its normal size.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Um, Fun fact though, if you're pregnant or giving birth soon, if you don't know, instead of just using the sitz bath either in a bath or to spritz up there, my midwives poured the solution on pads and then put them in the freezer. And so I would take them out, made the mistake of taking it out and directly putting it in my underwear, and my vagina was like almost like an ice burn. I was like, okay, too cold.
Or
But if
like
you take it out,
when something that's like sort of moist like sticks to like when you have not dry hands and you try to grab ice cubes, they'll stick to
yeah, a little stressful. So learned that real quick to let it sit for like 10 minutes after you pull it out of the freezer. Oh man, but that felt great because it was cold and it was the sits. Anyway, so going to the bathroom was a whole thing for about the first week. But going back to the poop, I had the hospital gave me some stool softeners. I only took them
Mm.
for like 36 hours. And it wasn't whatever, not TMI, I don't care anymore. It wasn't like runny or diarrhea or anything, and it wasn't even like super super soft, but it was soft enough where it did not hurt to poop. I also didn't have hemorrhoids either, and
Okay.
I think if that was the case, I think it would probably be more painful. And I also didn't rip down towards that area
Oh,
either,
you had a
which could
lateral
potentially.
tear?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
So I was nervous, but it was totally fine. I was like, okay.
If this is too personal, you can just say skip. But how long is one generally told to not have sex for after they give birth?
They say 6 weeks. Like normally you have a 6 week checkup appointment, and that's when they can like clear you of doing exercise and sex and all that other stuff.
Oh,
I
okay.
typically is what I've seen.
Unless you have just like major tears, probably.
Yeah, I mean if you have like I knew someone as an Instagram friend who I don't actually know personally, but her birth journey, she got an infection and she had to wait like
Oh.
an extra 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I'm sure like after you give birth, you're not like, let's go. I don't know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just nosy about all the normal life things that are in life. Also, I feel like hormonally, does something happen? I'm asking you like you're a midwife, but maybe you know from your research. But like hormonally, does something happen where that's just like not on the table?
Hormonally, so I read something. when you're pregnant, it's basically equivalent of taking crap. I don't remember the exact number. This is my problem. I know things, but I don't remember the exact things.
It's okay. We're not PhDs or MDs, and we've never said we were, so you
No,
can round about it.
when you're pregnant, it's equivalent to taking, I don't know, 50 pills of birth control daily. Like it's an exuberant amount of hormones that your body is producing while you're pregnant. And then once you give birth, you're basically having a complete hormone dump of all that, which is why some people are more prone to anxiety and postpartum depression, very hormonal stuff, which is also a reason why I took my placenta and had it encapsulated and ate it. Or I shouldn't say ate, that's misleading. I took a pill of my encapsulated placenta because it had a lot of nutrients and stuff in there that were supplying the baby with stuff, and that was a part of me. So if you can replenish your body with that, it kind of is supposed to help. It's not, medically cooperated, but anecdotally,
I got you.
thank you. It's supposed to help the drop. It's supposed to kind of help with baby blues. Forgot where I was going with this. Oh, so hormonally, everything's different, and so you have a tendency to be maybe like lube is needed.
Yeah.
Like it's drier.
I have heard from some of my friends that have given birth that it took like a year in general, like not just related to sex, but it took like a year in general for like their hair to come back and just like their body. And I think one of my friends that had a kid was telling me it takes like a year for your organs to go back in place. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it makes sense, like everything's recalibrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to also with, body image and weight loss and stuff like that. I was surprised how quickly I went from looking very pregnant to looking not pregnant at all. I was like, oh, this is nice. But then, of course, you kind of plateau and, okay, well, I, don't look how I used to. I can't fit in my pants still. But also I have to remember it took 9 months, well, 8 or so, to get into that body. It's not going to take a month or two. It's going to probably take 8 months minimum to go back to even close to where I was. And so I'm trying to give myself grace with,
that's revolutionary.
Oh yeah,
I hadn't thought of that, but that makes sense. It took you 9 months to get to that point. Why does everyone feel like they have to be back to their pre-baby body in anything other than 9 months?
Yeah,
that's insane. I never thought of that. That makes so much sense. I hope someone out there is listening that hasn't had a kid yet. And obviously, not that it can't take more time, but why would you ever think it would take less than that?
Exactly. So yeah,
I'm gonna be so well equipped if we ever get pregnant, intentionally or otherwise. Because
I'll be so excited.
I would have had such a problem with that.
I mean, the fact that I can't fit into my pants, I'm like, dang, it's been 2 months. Why can't I even fit in my jeans? And then I was thinking, well, my jeans were already tight to begin with. So there's that. Like I have some time. I'll get back to where, and even if I don't get back exactly, I just want to be healthy again and kind of feel better, and that'll take time, but I'm in a good routine of walking like 3 to 4 times a week. And then I just started this new postpartum workout thing yesterday. So just taking it slow, just feeling like I want to move my body.
Your abs stretched out all that way. Your organs are rearranged. I mean, your hip structure may have actually changed, where like even if you were only your bones, they might just be wider set than they were before.
Isn't that crazy?
Do you remember, this is not related, but again, this is me drawing parallels. Do you remember when you went through puberty and your hips like dropped and just like 1 year you couldn't pull your shorts up anymore? So weird. I will never forget that. Like that first summer after that happened, and then I went to pull them up and they stopped mid-thigh. And like, when you're young and you're in my case, middle school or early high school, you're not like weighing yourself and you don't gain weight. But it was just like, what happened? Like my bones were different. This is so interesting. This 9 months versus 9 months is unendingly fascinating to me.
I can't take credit. I've seen it. A lot of people have talked about it on podcasts and Instagram and stuff.
I don't care. I heard it from you, so I'm going to quote you.
Thank you.
I know that we were going to wrap up your birth story in 2 parts, but I think I have a lot of questions. Can we do like part 3 tomorrow? I mean,
Of course.
the next
Another
time.
pod coming out Wednesday. No, I'm kidding. Next Tuesday. Yeah, of course. I'd be like, if you have questions, I love talking about this stuff.
I want to
so we
ask
can
you
totally
more
do
about
that.
your placenta because I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Oh, my legs are asleep. I want to know more about that. I want to know more about breastfeeding and becoming a mom. And I have so many questions. I feel like I just
Yeah,
zoned
let's
out
do it.
really hard there. I have one question to end the show for today. When did you feel like you became a mom? Was it like while he was still in utero? Was it when you could like finally feel him? Was it when he was like out in the world? Did you notice any like dividing line, or did it just kind of like build?
That's a great question.
You can
I
hold on
definitely
to it for
didn't.
next week if you want.
No, I think I can answer. I'm just trying to think exactly. It definitely didn't feel like that in the beginning. I think when he started to move, I was thinking, oh, this is real. Like, this is happening. I don't think I felt like a mom, but I think there was a definitive line of I'm in, I'm embodying and like absorbing and transforming into a mom when he was born and they put him on my chest.
That makes sense.
I think like I felt motherly, like instinctually and prepping and like I am a mother in practice or in I don't know how to describe it, but once he was born, it was like immediate connection. I am a mother. I can feel all the sensations of a mother and mama bear and just I don't know. I think when he was born, it was like, okay, I have transformed from woman to mother. I think that was the whole point of me wanting to give birth at home was the transformation into this different stage of my life. So that's probably when it was. Yeah.
So interesting. Your homework for next week. I want to know if Kenny had a defining moment.
I'll ask him.
Because obviously the baby
question.
like came out and came on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if he had any moments. I'm sure that was profound for him, but I'm wondering if there were any moments that were like specifically poignant for him in that like couple first days, like cutting the cord or maybe just seeing him come out. Because he caught him. So I guess he touched him first.
Yeah.
External. Yeah, besides your reach around.
Yeah. Such a weird feeling. Yeah, no, I'll ask him. That's interesting. I'd love to hear what he has to say too.
Also, number one, going back, I appreciate your note taking. I can't believe you did that. I have told numerous people in my life that Kayla took notes in labor and how amazed I was by that and the dedication. And I know half of it was fact finding, but I know the other half was to report back, which I'm so thankful for. And 2, I think you and Kenny would have had these conversations anyway, but I love how intentional you are about telling your story. And I kind of love that our podcast has made you have more of like a push to be intentional about asking him those questions. Because I think it's so interesting that some of that stuff didn't come up until then.
Yeah. I am so grateful that we have a place to talk about this and I can share my story, even if it's, we've talked about this. Who cares if anyone else listens to it? It's been very therapeutic. I highly suggest writing out your birth story just to remember it and work through any trauma that could have potentially been there. Let go of any, your dream birth that it wasn't. You can let go of that, or you can start that process by journaling it out. And just also having that story for Caden eventually where he can listen to it. I said it last week. I was like, if you're listening, son, like, I just think it's so cool. I asked my mom a lot about her birth story from me, and she remembered some things, but it would have been really cool to hear the whole experience.
Yeah.
And so
I was
I
gonna
love
say
that we're capturing it.
if you guys have a girl or if Caden marries a woman, like how fun would that be to like
Oh yeah.
dig this out of the archives? We're gonna have to make sure we like store it in some cloud that
Right.
stays accessible, you know, versus like my mom would have had like a fucking A track or something, you know, and I
Yeah.
would be able to play it
Yeah.
now. But that will be cool someday for you to go back and listen with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it.
Oh my god. I get so hyper from all of this. It makes it hard for me to calm down after work. Okay. All right. This has gone on a
Well, that
little
was
bit
fun.
longer than we normally do, but I mean, fuck anyone if they were bored, but this is so interesting. And it's funny for you listening. When we started this, Kayla was like, I'm not going to have a lot to say.
I know. I didn't think I was.
I know. I had more questions this time than last time. I don't know why. I guess because everything you said last time didn't really need much more of an explanation. It's just that was what it was. But anyhow, I'm going to make notes and do follow-up questions with you for next week.
I love it. I love it.
And we are not as far ahead as we used to be for the listeners. So when this releases, you can ask us questions or comments or whatever, and we'll be able to turn around and answer them a lot more quickly than we have in the past.
Yeah, ask me all the questions. And again, this is just my personal experience. This is me in no way having any opinions or any judgmental feelings about anyone's birth story or anyone's want, or because I have friends who are like, I can't wait to go to the hospital. I can't wait for you to put the epidural on. You know what? Maybe I'll get a C-section because that's easy. And by no means I mean easy, but it's easier for them to comprehend that than
having
the unknown of labor.
Date.
Yeah. So whatever you guys decide to do, totally fine. I just highly suggest to do as much research as you feel comfortable with so that you can go in confidently, because that was my biggest thing. I wanted to be confident in my decisions, and I accomplished that, and I'm so proud of how it went and me being able to like stand up for what I wanted as much as I could. So
here's my takeaway. This keeps going on, but my takeaway is that I know you keep giving caveats because you don't want to offend people because this is such a charged subject.
I know.
But, which I get, no judgment. I think, though, it's good that you are comfortable having opinions about what you want for yourself, because I think that's important, and you're not embarrassed about them, like eating your placenta in pills, swallowing them. But I think it's cool that you are willing to embrace what you want, even though you know that's probably not like, it's definitely not what the majority of people are doing. I do think there are circles and things are moving in a different direction. But I think also the takeaway, like you're saying, is to do the education so that you even have a clue of what you want. And then when you know what you want, to advocate for yourself, because no one else is going to. And the systems are just so big that like they don't, unfortunately, have the time to do that for you. So like figure out what you want. And if you're not ready, or if you're nervous that you won't be able to speak up for yourself, then like put people in the room that will do that for you, and be selective about who's in the room with you.
Mic drop. Exactly.
Bing, bang, boom. Okay. Well, listen, everybody, we will see you next Tuesday. And to Kayla, I love you.
I love you.
And okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.